Today very special because we've got boxing royalty in the room. Obviously, we'd like to get special guests in that up here, but today's special for me because I love my boxing, and we've got our special guest speaker in Barry Michael going to be speaking. Thanks to Glenn Carter from Gameface, brought Baz along.
Very happy when it was over because it was, believe me, it was hell and back because they reckon it was 55 degrees under the lights, and Frank the Tank hadn't been beaten in 8 years. He was the welterweight champion, I was the lightweight champion, and we'd sparred quite a few times in the gym, and it was always a war. And a couple of years before we fought, he put the buckle of my head guard through my chin, and I had 7 stitches. After this fight, I had 14 in the same cut, and my teeth had come right through here. I had about 5 or 6 stitches in my left eye, and didn't look too bad at the end of the fight on the TV there, but the next day I looked like Quasimodo. And I went to the Royal Children's Hospital telethon. I met Bob Hawke, and congratulated him and all that. And as I walked away, I heard him say, "Barry won the fight. Imagine what Rogus looks like." Because I was an absolute mess, but it was one of my greatest victories and an absolute war.
So 2 years later, the biggest fight in your career, Lester Ellis, and I know that a lot of people in the room would be familiar with Underbelly and the Carlton crew, but back in those days, the painters and doctors in the Carlton crew were well and truly alive. Lester was in one camp, you were in another. Why don't you tell everyone about that?
I actually went to them. I came back from Queensland after getting involved in a restaurant up there, and came back to Melbourne sort of penniless, and went to the Waterfront boys and Leo the Lout and all that, and asked them to manage me, and they did. And then, within a year or so, Lester Ellis, who I trained with at 12, I was 22 the first time I sparred him, he was 12, and I picked him as a future world champion, trained him until he was about 17, 18, and every spar was a war. He always tried to kill me, but I was always sort of the boss. But the father always led me to believe I would train him, but his brother Keith, poor Keith no longer with us, but Keith basically, when Lester started to rise up and, as a professional, was looking like a future world champion, which he was, Keith Jr. handed Lester to the Italian connection, let's put it, and Alphonse Gangitano was there heavy, and so it was the painters and dockers versus the Melbourne Mafia, I guess. And Lester thought he would knock me out, which knocked a lot of blokes out. The very first punch he threw in the first round, there was a lot of bad blood, a lot of nasty things said before the fight, and I actually got in the ring absolutely disgusted with him and wanted to smash him, but he wanted to smash me as well. And the very first punch he threw hit me on the elbow, right elbow, and slipped under, and I felt something tear in my lower abdomen, and after the fight I was passing blood, so it might have been that. But it was an absolute war. I kept talking to him. He said afterwards, if we ever fought again, he said I was the only bloke that could fight and talk for 15 rounds. And if we fought again, he'd wear earplugs. He smashes me with the right hand, and my nose had never been busted before, but beyond about round 7, it's, you're fighting on your inner will and your conditioning and your mental strength, because it's hell in there. And blood was just running. I was aware my nose was busted. I didn't feel any pain. It was just running straight out of my nose, straight down my chin, trickling down my chest. And Joe Bugner picked it up that my nose was broken. So I go back to the corner, I sit down, and my trainer, Ray Stiles, he's no longer with us either, great Ray Stiles, Kid Lewis, he goes, great round, 3 rounds, you're champion of the world. And I've gone, but he's broken my effing nose. He goes, forget it, 3 rounds, you're champion of the world. I said, but he's broken my effing nose. I was looking for a bit of sympathy and I was getting none. Anyway, he said, go out and win these last 3 rounds, you're champion of the world. And that's what I did, and I won a unanimous decision. And to the day I die, I'm indebted to Lester, because I'd signed 2 or 3 contracts for world lightweight title shots that fell over. I've been promised so much bullshit over the journey, and to the day I die, I'm indebted to Lester for giving me the opportunity. And probably something he always regretted, but that's life.
So as a teenager, I loved Lester Ellis growing up. As a kid, I was barracking for him that night. That.
Most people were.
So
this young man is one of the your footballers who's put his hand up to have a three 2-minute round fight. Woo! Exhibition. It'll be with bigger gloves, but he's actually put his hand up. I think I've asked you before, you haven't actually picked anyone that you would like to have a crack at?
And I don't think I will for a little bit. I'll see how it goes. I just put my hand up for the club, and I thought if anyone was going to do it, I'm sure a few people want to hit my head, so I'll take one for the team.
Look, honestly, for the actual layman, for someone to put his hand up who hasn't really had boxing experience, to get in there, even 3 2-minute rounds is a long time, but it is a great experience. It's something you'll never forget, and you'll be proud of yourself after it, win, lose or draw. And really appreciate your support. And any of the other players or people that want to put their hand up, just come and see Glenn or I, and we'll get you on. But thanks very much for your support.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
All right, so on Friday the 2nd of November, the Cranbourne Racecourse, Barry Michael Promotions in conjunction with Game Face, we're going to have 4 pro fights on the card, supported by 8 exhibition bouts and PNFL players. 3 2-minute rounds. Fighters will all wear headgear. Fighters will all be licensed. Every fighter will be teamed up with a professional trainer, and every fighter gets the same prize money as the pro fighters. So the exhibition bout fighters will get the same prize money. You'll start to see this event promoted on Facebook in the coming weeks, and it'll also be launched on the new Game Face footy show that goes live next Thursday that Barry will be a regular on.
Get your Game Face on.